Cheers to you.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So as I was looking through all the episodes and we kind of picked I think it was a top 20 that we picked, top 25. And as I was going through, I, randomly picked about 4 or 5. And as I'm running through them, there was a theme that I was noticing. And it came back to what my episode, I think my advice on my episode was, and it was around relationships. And that's what I think partner marketing is all about. It's about relationships. And quite frankly, I think that's just how you build your career. That's how you build your life, is network.
Yeah.
Right? Your network capital that you build throughout your whole career. So I want to start with my main man, Dan Kessler. I think we sat down with him in Boston, right?
Yeah.
At the partner marketing dinner. Really great guy. I believe he's with Dell.
Yeah.
Right? His advice was be kind, be a dot connector, because kindness goes a long way, and connecting the dots in your career is key. And I couldn't agree more. I think it's very funny because when we look at how we met, right? I reached out to you, and you're like, "Hey, want to talk to you, but you got to go through the proper channels." I'm like, "Sure, we can do that, or we can just meet." And all of a sudden, I come in here, you interview me, and here we are today. I think this is almost 9 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy. My favorite. So Dan at that partner marketing dinner. Just a random story. It was the end of the night, right? I think it was like 10, 11 p.m. We've had some good food. We had some good wine.
Sure.
And we're like, Dan, you heading home? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna head home and lift some weights.
Yeah, that's right.
We're like, what? It's like
He's
10
like,
o'clock.
I lift at night.
Yeah.
He's like, my wife thinks I'm crazy, and I'm like, we both look at him and we're like, well, I kind of agree with her.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, Dan is anybody that works with Dan just knows he's the nicest guy. And I remember on that episode too, we were talking about how short-sighted it is that some people in this industry are just not kind people.
Right.
And I gotta say though, it's pretty rare though. I feel like with other industries where you're more likely to run up against that person, we're like, what's this guy's deal?
Sure.
Like, I think we're very fortunate where we work in a very relationship-driven industry where those people just are not prevalent. And so
sure.
we have an industry built on kindness, I think, which is nice.
It's what makes us go,
Yeah.
and I think when you're talking about B2B, it has to be there. It has to be an aspect. So yeah, am I going to go through mine, or we're going to go back and forth,
next,
or are we going to volley here a little bit?
Yeah, let's volley.
Okay,
let's do it. But I want to ask you though, like, how do you build relationships? What's been your key to success in building relationships? Obviously, kindness is part of that, but it can't just be a kind person and build a strong relationship. It's more than that, right?
Well, you have to bring value to the relationship, especially from a business perspective, and I think in a personal aspect as well. Just bringing value, just being someone. You have to build trust, right? I think that's first and foremost. And once you build trust, it's just you bring value to the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's in marriage, as we both know, and it's a constant dance, but participation has to be on both sides. So for me, it's really kind of understanding the person in front of me, knowing who they are, what they like, what they've been through, what we've been through together, what we can accomplish together. And really kind of set goals, to just be like, hey, let's accomplish some things, or not even around accomplishments, but what do you need? How can I best support you?
I think it's funny you say that, the goals. So I used to listen to Dave Ramsey a lot because I was like many Americans, even when my income was going up, I didn't have any more money to show for it. I was like,
sure.
It's not an income problem, it's a spending problem. So I got deep on Dave Ramsey, and he actually just kind of fundamentally changed the way that I approached my finances. But he always talked about just having common goals with your partner, right? And obviously really focused around the financial aspect, but I think there's more to that, right? And just having that shared vision of working together, and then are you providing value within that journey towards that vision, I think is
absolutely
hugely important. And I think the other part of that is that value part is really important. Like I know we had sales training for our team earlier today, and the JCA guys were talking about, don't be a salesperson, be a business person.
Right.
Right, and approach that partnership with understanding their business, asking genuine questions about their business, and then how do you provide value based on that information, right? As opposed to just trying to sell them things. Like if you can do that, they're going to want to buy from you, but you got to provide value to that partnership to begin with.
Absolutely. It's 100%, and I know that this point in our careers, I think it's something that we have to think about imparting to our staff, our employees, because it comes natural to us.
Yeah.
Right? It's just part of our flow. But I think when we're looking to kind of share, that we have to take a step back and just be like, okay, what is the framework that I can share with you to make you, to assist you in your growth?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it, is just understanding how to build relationships.
I love it. All right, so I'll go next. I'm going to go with... I feel like I'm calling out like my picks here. Clint Oram, so the co-founder of Sugar CRM in episode 10.
Okay.
He gave the advice, and I love this, if you're not having fun, don't do it. Go do something else. Follow your curiosity. And I love that, and I think his overall message is, life's short, and it's essential to take action. And I think, sometimes we got to do what we got to do. We've all been there, and I think all of our lives have seasons, right? And sometimes you're in a busy season. Sometimes you have sickness. We all have those obstacles, but not always, And I think you got to take advantage when you're not in those seasons to make sure to just reevaluate what it is you're doing. And is this something that you want to be doing? Is this, because life's short. It really is. And we don't know when we're going to punch that ticket. And, and he gave this analogy in that episode. I think that for me, it really kind of helped bring it to life. He said he was doing Toastmasters, and one of the guys was presenting, and he gave this visual of calendars on a wall, and like every calendar represented a year, and it went out to year 2070, and he's like, "This is how many years you have left, but you don't know when you're going to punch the ticket somewhere on that wall, and every year you pull one of those calendars off," and it just helped visualize for him the finite remaining time he has left on this planet to do what he wants to do. And for me, that really hit home, and thinking like, well, am I really doing what I want to do? Am I enjoying this? And I think I'm very fortunate I am, but there's other things I want to do, and now I'm like pursuing those with a little bit more vigor, outside of work, because I want to have fun. And I think that's really important, right?
Yeah, I think that's, I know I've always approached work with a balance mindset. Right? It's like, and the old term, work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
But I with kids now, for the last 17 years now, it's really about enjoying life and really taking the moments. I think it's important for us to take those beats, take that step back, and evaluate where you are. Right? And just ensure yourself you're having fun.
Yeah.
Whether it's work, whether it's personal, home, family, just make sure there's fun moments, as more fun moments than serious moments.
Yeah. And I don't think that, your job, I don't think you have to come out of this thinking, oh, my job has to be the most fun or I'm in the wrong job. I don't think it means that at all. I think that, your job could allow you to do the fun things in your life outside of work that you really want to do, right? So there's an element to that, like you're talking about with your kids, or I know you farm a lot at home. But at the same time, you can't be miserable at what you do, too, because you spend so much of your life doing this, right?
Absolutely. No, and you can't bring misery to the workplace.
Yeah.
Because you've got to, if we all have hard days, there's tough days, there's tough moments, and in order to work through those moments, there has to be something that you can point to that can remind you that why you're doing this and the moments of having fun while you are doing it. So, I think you and I agree that we try to bring as much fun as possible to the game, and that's just, I think that's part of being who we are.
My bit of advice on top of Clint's advice, I'll ride on his coattails because obviously he's hugely successful. You got to enjoy the little things. You really
Yeah.
do.
You do.
So
You do.
we
Little wins.
We didn't cheers Dan, but let's cheers Dan and Clint.
Cheers, Dan and Clint. Cheers to you.
All right, you're up. Who you got next?
This is one of my favorite episodes, and she's kind of one of my favorite people that I've never met yet, and I'm hoping to meet you soon. Amy Catalano.
You've never met Amy?
I've never met Amy. As many times that I think she's been to our partner marketing dinner.
So she's head of partner marketing at Google.
Head of partner marketing, at Google.
Where you practically live, because you're there all the time.
And I've never bumped into her in the hallway.
I'm going to tell her, because I was just emailing her. I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to force Hondo to just go knock on your door.
Absolutely.
You probably walk by your office.
I'll get kicked out of the office. It's fine.
It's probably the last time she's ever emailed me now.
She's like, I'm done with those guys. I'm done with them. The advice that she gave, which I think she talked about it on the episode about her daughter. I think she's got like a 13-year-old daughter, which was it was very much aligned with my daughter, she's 15. Lead with kindness. If you approach every interaction with empathy and consideration, you'll create an environment where people thrive and bring their best selves to the table. And I think that's just like spot on. Again, the theme that I have is relationships and kindness, and going back to what Clint said, and having fun and just, but being kind.
Yeah.
Right. There's no reason to be mean, in our work. That's not how you build a relationship. You get more bees with honey.
Yeah.
So it always just, especially coming from her position of just like having that empathy, that understanding of like, we're all in this together. So if we're going to do this together, let's just be nice. Let's be kind.
Yeah, especially someone like Amy who's, she's put in her dues, she's earned it, and now she's like an executive at the top company in the world, right? And she could throw that around, and
especially the way that she got there.
Right, she could throw that around and give it back to the world the way she's probably received it, and not be kind, and she chooses not to.
Right.
I think that says a lot about her and people like her that, use their position of authority to lead by example on what they want to perceive the world to be doing, not what it is doing. And I think that's huge. It's funny, I'm reading a book right now, what's it called? I think it's like Lead It Like Lasso.
Okay.
And it's all about Ted Lasso
Sure.
and the show, and it's funny because they actually break down the characters, and you have the Keeley, who's like the very, optimistic, fun one. You have Ted, the very empathetic one. You've got the owner, and they all have these different, character windows. But just, how, just the power of motivation through kindness and empathy, and what you can achieve of that. And, I like to think I'm a very kind person, but I got to catch myself all the time because I'm also a redheaded Irish, and I have these strong emotions, and I can get very worked up. And so, especially reading that book and just, thinking about what I should be doing versus what I am doing. And I got to catch myself all the time.
I'm
quick to react.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I'm very competitive. I grew up playing sports. I've coached. I coach my son. I watch him play sports. So I'm still very much a competitive person, and I have to remind myself that not everyone. When I look at my team, I have to treat them as them and not as them being me. Like I don't want to put myself onto them of like. Yeah. Get that goal. Like, why aren't you going after that goal?
Because that's how you'd want to be motivated.
Exactly.
Right?
That's how I'm motivated. Yeah. So you just have to think about it. It's just like, just be kind. Yeah. You can teach with kindness, right? It doesn't always have to be with a hammer.
And I think that's like a superpower. If you could, quickly identify how somebody wants to be motivated and kind of give it to them and I think you can do kindness throughout all that. It doesn't mean, this person wants to be yelled at. It doesn't mean you have to be an asshole.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
like if you could just understand like your team, the dynamics, how they want to be pushed, and kind of just lean into that with kindness, like that's a superpower if you can do that. But that's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done, and it's moment to moment.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just, you try not to have knee-jerk reactions, but they happen.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you just sometimes have to take a beat, breathe, and then react.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cheers to Amy.
Cheers to
There you
Amy.
go. We're on this one.
Indeed.
All right, my next one. Let's go with Kristen Gower. She's the president of B2B at Essence Mediacom, episode 26, and she said, I love this, say yes to new experiences, new partnerships, and experiments. Growth often comes from stepping out of your comfort zone and embracing new opportunities.
Wow.
So I just love to say yes, you know, and I think, I know, I've seen so many people throughout my life, and including me, that have not jumped on opportunities and said no to opportunities, and you know, for a variety of different reasons, and some of those are legitimate, but oftentimes it's just like a fear, it's you know, self-doubt. You know, I'm not qualified for that, or I'm not even gonna go up to take a swing at it because I don't think I could do it. And I just love this say yes. And it's funny. It actually reminded me of so before we hit record, you're hearing me play Always Sunny in Philadelphia video clips, right?
Right.
You're like, what the hell is he doing? There's an episode though where Dennis is yelling at Charlie Day because he was saying no, and he said, you just need to say yes to new things. Just say yes. And so the rest of the episode, no matter how like, you know, out of the ballpark the question is, he just says yes to it. From getting in the random truck driver's, you know, cross-country cab to going to the casino and the dealer is saying, you know, he plays roulette and he wins some money, and the dealer says, would you like to let it ride? Yes. And he just keeps it going, and he wins all this money. And
I love it.
The rest of the episode is him just winning because he's saying yes. It made me think of that. But I think there's a lot of truth to that, in that, you know, I think just naturally we try to protect ourselves and we put up a wall, and we don't necessarily say yes to new opportunities when we should. And Kristen has said yes. And it's taken her all around the world and all these different jobs and locations, and she's gotten to where she is by embracing the uncomfortableness of new opportunities, the scariness, the challenges, and making herself vulnerable. But as a result, learning and advancing her career and doing great things. And I think we all learn from that.
I think say yes is almost the motto of this company, right? I mean, that was kind of how the company was built with Pat McGovern, was just say yes, right? It's just like, take it on. You know, if you believe in it, take it on. So I wholeheartedly believe in that mantra of say yes. Like, why not? Let's try it. You know what? And if it fails, that's a learning opportunity, right? So I'm in with her.
Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, cheers to say yes.
Cheers to say yes. Indeed.
How are we doing? What have we done? 4 so far? 15 minutes in? I think we're doing well.
We're doing all right.
Yeah.
We're doing just fine. So next up on my list, I think it's a lady that we know quite well, Melissa Nasarino.
Yeah.
She's with Zscaler, right?
Yeah, I don't remember her advice, so this will be interesting.
Well, her advice is building strong relationships and fostering trust is key. Again, the theme of relationships and really going back to trust and value. Start with the relationships you have and build from there, especially when you're new. And I think she was talking about more from being new at a company, being new into a relationship. Leverage everything that you have, you know? And I think she's absolutely right. And that's kind of how I approach my own relationship building, is building with what I have. I think all the relationships I have out in the world, in the business world, with individual companies, I'm leveraging the relationships that I already have there to build upon and create new ones, and taking all of those and continue to just build.
What's an example of that? I would give me an example of what that means.
So, you know, the relationship that I have with, I don't, do I name names here? Can I name names?
I don't know their names. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe
if we
say
name
marketer
names.
at a cloud company or something.
So sure. So building a good relationship with one marketer, and this is years of relationships, of a relationship, and knowing that there's trust there, there's value that I've brought to the relationship. There's probably been an ask at some point, is it okay for me to, you know, use your name? Can you make a recommendation for me for this person?
So you're essentially asking for help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Asking for help.
Using your network.
Using the network.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you build trust? Because I know you mentioned trust as part of that. Like, you need the trust before you can do that. So how do you quickly build trust as part of these relationships?
Through bringing value.
Okay.
You know,
it's all interconnected.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah.
If you bring value to the relationship,
then you'll get something in return.
Absolutely,
it's,
it's
like
a value
beneficial.
exchange.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And again, that's professional and personal.
Yeah.
It's a value exchange. You just can't be the person that's always taking. You have to give.
Yeah, and I'm always surprised how often people don't ask for help when they have a relationship in place.
Right.
And I've found that people really want to help. And this might sound wrong, but in my experience, it's like an ego thing.
Right.
You feel important and valuable when you get to help somebody.
Yes.
Right. And people should take advantage of that. Not in a bad way, but like people want to help. They really do because they feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And you can help them back in return in different ways. And I don't think like that. As I'm saying, I'm like that sounds terrible, but it's human nature, And like, I'm a Christian, right? And I always believe that like when you give, you don't want to broadcast that. Like you don't want to give for the wrong reasons, but it's like basic psychology. You feel good about it, though.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just being a human, right?
Yeah.
It's just part of the humanity exchange.
Don't judge me as I pour more.
I would
I'm
never
enjoying
judge
this.
you. Would never judge you.
I will pour you too, though.
Thank you. I probably need some more ice, but that's fine.
We like hit the pause button and get more.
No, we're good. Yeah, it's part of just being a human. Right?
So you build trust, delivering value, build a relationship, leverage that relationship to grow your network.
Yes.
And you got kindness kind of throughout that as like a...
Yeah, but also going back to what we were saying, what we talked about earlier, especially during our training with our crew. There's moments of kindness. There's moments of a business relationship and a kind of partner relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you have to have business conversations. So it's just understanding the persona that's needed in the moment.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Well, should we cheers this one?
Yeah. Cheers to Melissa.
Cheers, Melissa.
Thank you.
She started off in government.
That's right.
It's funny how many people I've interviewed that or these senior marketing executives that did not start out in sales and marketing.
No.
She's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was another guy, I think from France, that started off in finance.
But yeah, banking. And then I just interviewed Gaby Boko. And she started off, I think, she was going to law school. Or like she was about to go to law school. She wanted to be a lawyer.
Sure.
Right, so all these people just like fell into
marketing.
Yeah. So I fell into sales. I wanted to go into marketing, and I never got out of
same
sales. But you and I get to work with marketers all day, so it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we get the best of all worlds.
Yeah.
I think.
All right, so my next one is Richard O'Connor. This was on my British tour. So he's the CEO of B2B Marketing, right? And so he runs that organization, which is there to help B2B marketers be more successful.
Sure.
And super awesome guy. And it's always great when I sit down with an executive that's incredibly approachable. So Brett Hana, I got him on my list too later, CMO of Intel. Like, people like Amy, like they don't just, I'm an executive, I'm too busy, don't want to talk to you. And believe me, I've met some of them, and they definitely a lot of them out there like that.
Sure.
I think less so on the marketing side, which is nice. And so he was incredibly approachable, nice guy. And so his advice aligns to that. He said, be authentic. Authenticity stands out in the sea of an authentic communication, and it's easier to achieve because you can't fake it.
Absolutely. I love that.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Could you read that again?
Yeah, one more time. Be authentic. Authenticity stands out in a sea of inauthentic communication. Just thinking about and that's a tough thing with marketing, right? There's so much inauthentic communication out there. It's funny because I also interviewed Ross Pomerantz. He's the corporate guy.
Right.
Yeah, so sales influencer, and his episode's dropping tomorrow, which will be in the past when people hear this. But so definitely give that one a listen if you haven't. But we talk about influencer marketing, and he's like, authenticity is the key to influencer marketing. And you got to be vulnerable. Like, vulnerable is a big part of that. And I think vulnerability is a big part of authenticity.
Absolutely.
I think if we try to put up this facade that we're something that we're not, and you see this all the time with sales reps, like, people read right through it. And all those things that you're talking about, your underlying theme of kindness and trust and bringing value, if you're not leading with authenticity, I don't think you can do any of that.
No.
You just can't, genuinely.
No, it's something that you can't fake it. You have to be you.
Yeah.
And you hope the who you are is acceptable.
Yeah.
Right? I think just going back to our dinner last night, there's no way the night would have gone the way it did without us being authentic.
We had a blast.
We had an absolute blast. I mean, they had no idea what they were in for, but it was one of those things where it's like, without us being authentic, the night just like, thank you very much, this was great.
Yeah.
It was nice to meet you.
It's funny because we walked into the restaurant, they beat us there, so it's two women.
Right.
Right, and you and I walk in, and the first thing I said to you was like, this is like being on a blind double date.
I'm like, great.
And they're at the bar. We wave like hi. We do the introductions. And we sit down like across from each other, and it was like, but we didn't let it be awkward. We just dove right in, and we were ourselves. We were vulnerable. We were funny. We had a good time.
Absolutely.
Business comes naturally. Like, we talked about work, but we didn't have to bring it up in an inauthentic way.
No.
Like, they actually brought it up.
They brought it up.
Okay, let's go. You guys want to go there? We'll go there. But like, we don't have to talk work.
Right.
And
it was fun just hearing about how they met and their relationship.
It's funny because I've seen so many sales reps struggle with this, is the authenticity thing, and it's like, it's something that like people can just see right through.
Yeah.
It's like you can smell it, and it's like,
it's thick.
Maybe that's bad. I gotta work on my analogies, right? But I don't know. But in the marketing side though, it's true on like the communication you're putting out there and how you're, the message you're putting out there, and just thinking through like the actual strategic and tactical applications of authenticity in your marketing. But then your career, your family, your friends, all that stuff, it all ladders up, right?
Absolutely.
So, well, cheers to Richard.
Yes, thank you, Richard.
It's funny,
the authentic self.
He schooled me in tea making. Because we're doing I interviewed him in London.
That's right.
The guy brings out, I think he had his own teaspoon that he brought with him. And so like he did like I don't remember if he was just stirring it with the spoon or he put his sugar in, but he carried around a teaspoon. I mean, he is a proper, the guy looks like James Bond, first of all.
Sure.
And he just showed me how to make a proper English tea. It was wonderful.
You got to take that experience.
Oh, I'm a very much, me, I'm very much when in Rome, like do as the Romans, like let's go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The last time I also drank tea, so.
Don't say last time.
I'm like Ted Lasso,
Sure.
When what was his boss's name in Ted Lasso?
Not that versed.
Oh, you didn't watch Ted Lasso?
I'm not that versed in Ted Lasso. I'm sorry.
Did you?
I admit it, people. I'm not that versed.
Did you watch Ted Lasso? Yes or no?
I've watched some episodes.
Oh my God!
I have not watched the whole thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, so his new boss, asks him, Ted, "How do you take your tea?" And he goes, "Back to the bar, because clearly somebody made a mistake."
I mean,
he calls it tree piss.
Can we say that? Or are we allowed to say that?
We're allowed to say it.
We'll say whatever the hell we want.
I already said asshole, so the cat's out of the bag.
We're the cat's out of the bag here.
All right, so what do you got next?
I think I remember watching this, and I remember you talking to me about this guy, and I was like, that sounds interesting. So Asher Matthew, he's the founder, CEO of Partnership Leaders. His advice, you have to be, and this is something I think that you and I kind of, when I heard this, I was like, yes, someone cut from our own thread. You have to be the entrepreneur of your career or the CEO of your career and your domain. And then leverage all the stuff that we've built to do that, because if there's one company, meaning ourselves, that was purposely built for partnership people, it's us, right? So it's like, owning your own destiny, controlling it, taking ownership of it. And I think that's what we, in part to our crew is be the CEO of your territory as a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Is be the CEO, understand what that means, take ownership. This is, your success is on you. No one else is going to make you successful. You have to make yourself successful. And I think when you look at it from a relationship perspective, you have to take the onus to bring trust, bring value, be authentic. Understand the individuals that you're talking to, the individuals that you're building relationships with, because each one is different, right? You can't build relationships in the same way. It's not rinse and repeat. It's not cut and paste. It's get to know this person. Who are they? Do they watch Ted Lasso or do they not? So understand who they are. Do they like whiskey with peanut butter in it?
Yeah. Can you reread the first part? Be the CEO of.
You have to be the entrepreneur of your career or the CEO of your career and your domain.
So be the entrepreneur of your career.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Huh. I like that one a lot. And Asher's an awesome guy, and he clearly lived that, right? He saw
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we all got to figure that out. I remember, I had a former boss, or my boss's boss, Matt York. And
your boss's boss's boss?
No, it was my boss's
Just
boss.
joking.
But we were out for drinks one night, and he's like, this thick British accent, you need to reinvent yourself. Because I think some of us can just get caught up in the status quo of every day, just
right.
going through the motions. And we see this all the time. The sales team is like, you're just caught up in all these little action items.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of truth in that. There's a lot of shit to do. And we're all so busy running meeting to meeting, virtual call to virtual call, face to face, all these pesky reps bugging me all the time. But I think to do that, you got to take a step back.
Right.
And I think that was Matt's point, is like, take a step back. Look what you're doing. And I got to give Matt credit. That's one of the reasons why I launched this podcast, is because he said that. And
I recall that moment.
Yeah, and it goes back to Richard O'Connor's feedback is be authentic, because the reality is there's a lot of marketing, webcasts and podcasts and all this stuff out there. And I'm like, I join them and I get 5 minutes into it and I'm like bored as hell. And I'm like, this is because it's not authentic. It's not real. It's not entertaining. It's all prescribed Q&A. We've practiced the answers, and
right.
And to be fair, there's some really good ones out there, and people are doing some really good stuff. But I was like, I want to, like what we did last night. We're sitting around, we're drinking, we're learning, we're being vulnerable, we're sharing stories. Like, I want to capture this. But I got to give Matt a lot of credit, because Matt's like, you got to reinvent yourself. And I was really frustrated at the time. I was like, what the hell does that even mean? I don't understand that.
Right.
Like, obviously you're telling me I'm doing something wrong, but you got to take a step back, look at what you're doing, and how can you be the entrepreneur of your career to move to that next level?
Yep.
And back to what you're saying though, like, can you do that and provide value back to people? And I hope that this show does, but definitely share with your friends so we get it out there more.
That's right. That's right. Don't make this be the last one.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
All right, so let's cheer to Asher.
So cheers to Asher.
Cheers, Asher. Oh, you want some more?
Add some more ice.
Come on. All right.
So what do you got?
All right, I got two more.
Okay.
I got to get her last name right. She's going to kill me. She's going to text me as soon as this comes out. Ani Hagopian.
Sure.
Hagopian?
I didn't say it. You did.
Episode 23. So she works on the North American GSI team at Microsoft. And first of all, she's a fabulous person. She is
there's nothing but fabulous people that come on this show. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
I do get people that
I'm not including myself, but
reach out that want to come on the show. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know if you're. And every now and then, I didn't know Ross when Ross, corporate guy, came on.
Right.
But I've seen enough of his stuff. I was like, all right, you seem pretty cool. Like,
Sure.
You're funny as hell, right? But man, she's awesome. But she's a spitfire. She's like, let's go.
Let's giddy up.
And but anyways, her advice: remember, you always have a choice. It may be a difficult one, but making choices and moving forward will always propel you towards growth. But I love that you always have a choice.
Always have a choice.
And going back to what Clint said, like, if you're not having fun, don't do it. And, someone told me something earlier in my career, and it was around your team, but it can be applied to everything in that, every day you rehire your team. So if you think about someone in your team, and if you woke up tomorrow and you wouldn't rehire that person, like, that's a choice.
Yeah.
You're making and you can think about that with everything. You reapply for your job, right? I mean, would you wake up tomorrow and reapply for the job you have? And the answer is no. You're making a choice to stay with your job,
Right?
You're making a choice to keep this person on your team. We're always making choices, and I think we've gotten really good at tricking ourselves that we have no choice, and we stick with what we have, regardless if it's good for us financially, our mental health, our personal. I mean, you go down the list, right? We have a choice.
Yeah.
And life's short. Those calendars every year, you're pulling a calendar off the wall. You get one less.
Yeah.
What choices are you making? And how's that impacting your career, your life, your mental health?
Well, it's everything that we're talking about, right? It's like it's all intertwined because that choice is also part of your authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like going back to what Amy, lead with kindness. That's a choice. Like, you have to make these choices. You have to understand who you are, how you want to represent yourself, how you want to be taken in. Like, it's all a choice, and she's spot on.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't include the corporate guy, Ross Pomerantz. I didn't include his advice in my list because his episode hasn't premiered yet. I could have cheated because this episode is going to be after his. But
Absolutely.
Regardless, it's funny because he talks about how his career kind of goes up. Like, it's not like a straight up line or, a hockey stick growth. It's like this weird zigzag up.
Yeah. It's
right?
like market growth.
Yeah. And, a lot of that is, the choices you're making. And I think that goes back to Kristen Gower's comment of just saying yes, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you got to say yes, and it might not always work out. You might go sideways a little bit, or maybe even a little down, but say yes again, make a choice.
That's got to be Ross's experience.
Yeah, but again, if you make the wrong choice, you're making a choice to either stay in it or get out of that situation.
Right.
And I think so many of us just, like, we sleep in the bed we make, for better or worse, rather than, okay, I need a new effing bed here.
Sure. Well, there's something to be said about, I touched on it earlier, the failure effect, right? It's like, as long as you're learning from it, like, you can stay in the same place, not literally, but you can choose to do something and learn from it and grow and have that be that next step up, because I'm sure, there's lots of moments in our life, again, where we make choices and we could say, oh, that didn't work out and I'm going to do something else, or that didn't work out, but I know why it didn't. Let me make this tweak and see if I can advance that.
You have to take a risk to do that, though.
You have to take risk.
Do you think we're, and I don't know how to ask this question because I think you could apply it to just partner marketing, B2B marketing, tech. I mean, you could just keep going wider and wider, right? But, like, do you think we're taking enough risks in our lives? Do you think we should be taking more risks?
I think we take calculated risks. I think we're in a position where we
my natural inclination is saying we're not taking enough risks these days.
No, I don't think we are, but I don't think that we are in a place where we can.
Yeah, okay.
I think, and that's why I say calculated risk. I think we take calculated risk all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't think we take big bet risks enough.
Yeah, this is a tough year to make risks, and
it's been a few tough years to take risks.
Yeah, I know. But people are still taking them, and they're still winning.
Absolutely. AI is showing us that.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So, Ani, cheers to you.
Ani, thank you, Ani.
Going down a rabbit hole here.
Choices.
I feel like I need another drink just talking about the year. It's been a
hell of a year, but we're still here,
people.
and everything's surviving, and all will be well.
Yeah, that's a good outlook.
All will be choices.
You're very
gotta
hopeful.
have choices.
You're a hopeful person, Hondo. I love it.
I try to be. So
is this your last one?
This is my last one,
okay.
And I snuck it in here. This is my crazy shout out to Jennifer Jared. She's a lead of partner marketing over at Elastic. I haven't met her yet, but I've had many a conversation with her. I loved her episode 17. Be a better listener, to really make an effort to listen more than talk. And that's, I love the phrase, from a sales perspective, listening people into selling themselves, right? You have to really just listen and stop yourself from talking. Like, present the opportunity and then let people just talk. Let people talk.
Listen, would you say listen to people into selling themselves?
Yes.
Is that your own?
That's, I don't know where I picked it up from.
But that's something you have.
That's something that I have.
It's
That's
one of your mantras.
Yes, that's that's one of my mantras, is listening, having people, or listening and having people sell themselves.
Interesting. It's been, I'll be honest, it's been one of my biggest struggles with this podcast is I've always not been a very good listener. I'm always thinking about the next thing I need to say.
Sure.
And as I'm thinking about the next thing I need to say, I'm not listening.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle. And so I've had to work and I, knock on wood, I think I've gotten, I think I'm 34, 35 episodes into this. I've gotten better at it.
Right.
But I have to work really, really hard. I have to constantly refocus my brain, listen. Because people give wisdom, they give you clues, and they give you all sorts of things in that conversational value exchange. And we just want to sound really good when we do our response, right?
Yeah.
So we're focusing really good on what I need to say next to, do my part to contribute to this. But,
Sure.
But we're missing so much value in that. And so I've struggled with that, and I still struggle with it. And I have to constantly remind myself.
Well, I think salespeople in general struggle with listening.
Yeah.
I think if we're not talking, then we're not doing our job.
Not selling, right? Which is I think the opposite, but...
Yeah, I think you have to
think.
listen. You have to listen, because there's always going to be clues out there, right? And I think whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's just simple, just social, being out there, it's like listening to people. People want to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think you have to give everyone their moment in a conversation. It's just like, it's again, it's the give and take. Can't always be a taker, right? You got to give. Got to give.
Especially like if you've ever had someone in your life that it's like they never ask you any questions. It's always just them talking. And it's like, if I don't ask a question, this conversation's going nowhere. And you're like, what am I doing here? This is not even fun.
What are we doing?
Like, I don't need to talk about myself, but I'd like just to know that you'd want to know something about me.
Sure.
And I've seen sales reps do the same thing. Like, the best sales reps I've ever met are the ones that ask really good questions.
Yeah.
Because so our boss, Andrea D'Amato, she's got this thing.
Cheers to Andrea.
Cheers, Andrea. Yeah. Oh, what a great leader. I hope that goes in my performance review. No, but she has this saying that genuinely be curious.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Like, be curious. So a client tells you this is their goal. Right. Okay. Write down their goal. Okay. Why? Why is that your goal?
Right.
Be curious. Don't just ask questions for the sake of getting answers to figure out how to reposition your product, or to focus on that proposal. Be curious, understand. And I think that goes back to the value exchange, and we were talking about earlier, be a good business partner. Be a good business person. How are you a good business person? You really understand.
Yeah.
And that's your partner, and your family, or your boss, or your customer, or your partner in technology. Be curious to understand why they're trying to do these things. What is happening to them? That's how you provide real value, right? Because
absolutely,
you understand.
No, it's that's why I picked it. I think it was it's one of those things. It's just we don't do it enough. You have to emphasize listening.
Yeah,
and that's. And I think listening is part of relationship. Again, going back to my theme of why I picked these sage advice from these 5 people, I just thought that was a good way to kind of put the dot on the I, give it a nice detail to in order to have and build relationships, you have to be a good listener.
Yeah.
You have to be kind. You have to be authentic.
Yeah.
So this is, thank you, Jennifer. And cheers.
Hey, cheers, Jennifer.
Cheers, Jennifer.
I think she goes by Jenny, but.
Jenny.
Cheers, Jenny.
Cheers, Jenny.
I think she's coming to my reInvent party. So.
Good.
I haven't seen her in a while. It'll be good to catch up. I have one left. So Brett Hana, CMO of Intel.
Okay. This was a goodie.
Yeah. So so take you back. You probably read my LinkedIn post, but so I remember I was a rep, sales rep for PC World and IDG Tech Network, 2010-ish, living in Chicago. So
The heyday.
Oh my God, yeah, that was the heyday. I mean, listen, every big tech company had an agency in Chicago at the time. So you had Intel, HP, Cisco, Oracle, Microsoft, and I moved there in 2010.
And it was the agency mecca.
Yeah, and I didn't know a soul. So I ended up, just working and just making friends in all the agency space there, and we had the time of our lives. And literally, I'd go to a bar and I would just invite. It looked like a rep agency party where you had all these agencies hanging out together. Like they were just my friends, and it was fun, and I learned a lot. But I remember early on, though, I didn't know a lot of people. Intel had a consumer briefing for the publishers out there. They had a big holiday program campaign coming out. So they invited all the top publishers into this giant hotel conference room. They were going to it was weird. They basically just read the brief. That's all they did. But you walk in this room and there's 100 sales reps from top, the New York Times and all these, Sports Illustrated, all these big companies. And I'm like, holy shit, I am way over my head right now. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Right.
And then 10 years, I guess 14 years, 14 years later, I'm walking into the headquarters of Intel to interview the CMO.
Right.
And I'm like, it's a culmination, I think, of everything we've talked about today. Just be kind, be the entrepreneur of your career, say yes. It got me to this point, and I'm like, this is weird, this is crazy, and
it's surreal.
And I'm still that young sales rep at heart. I'm walking into Intel, and I'm checking in. They're like, sir, we don't have you in the system, and I'm like, oh my God. But I was supposed to go to the executive briefing center, and I'm walking to the front desk I'm on my rep sales call, right? So I'm I just don't even see myself at that level yet. And so we go to the executive briefing center, and Brett had blocked out the 2 hours prior to the recording because we had to get there early to set up the cameras and the lights and the microphones. And
a true on the road.
Yeah, it was really fun. And Brett came in 2 hours early and just sat down and worked beside me and chit-chatted for 2 hours.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and then, like I said, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, just the approachability of an executive like that. And he worked and I worked, and I had to step out for a call and he'd step out for a call, but we just worked side by side and just chit-chatted. And it was it was a good dude. He was authentic, he was real, he was kind, like Amy and the rest of them. This is a long way to get me to his advice. So let's go.
I love it. It was a good route, and here we are.
So Brett Hana, CMO of Intel, episode 31. Okay. Carving out time in the day. Take a step back from the unhealthy nature of back-to-back meetings. And it's a good mental health reminder.
Boy, yes.
Right?
It's
true. It's
so true.
This COVID hangover of endless virtual meetings, back-to-back meetings, and it's what are we doing? We did business before this, and here we are.
Yeah. It's funny. We go back to our training this morning, and we talked about the 30-minute slot.
Yeah.
Right? And it's they're so easy, and this is where you really know where you stand with your customers, right? Is if it's easy for them to cancel a meeting, shift a meeting, it's because you've got this little 30-minute sliver of time, and they're probably 10 to 15 slots that are filled up throughout the day. And it's let me move this one because I actually want to go do this thing. And it's where are you in the importance? So I love that advice. I mean, it's so spot on. I think you got to take a beat, take a breath.
Yeah. And it's funny because his advice was at the end of the episode, which was the end of our 3 hours together.
Sure.
And, on my flight home, I'm
it's a long day.
Yeah, it was.
At the office.
I'm like, hey, Brett, how's it going? Typing away on my laptop. But he lived it. He literally blocked off the time and sat down with me.
It's huge.
And we talked. So like his advice wasn't, superficial in the sense like he doesn't live it. Like I saw him do it before he even gave the advice.
Right.
And this guy clearly, whether it's like just chatting with somebody or, I do this a lot now. Like I block a lot of time to like, I try to work out or be with my kids, right?
Yep.
And that's a big part of my day. And believe me, I put in the hours. I'm usually starting around 6:37 every day.
Yep.
But I find that time to charge my batteries, because if I don't do that, the company is not going to get the full value out of me. I'm not going to be fully on or fully engaged or fully happy. It's like, so they deserve it, but I got to do this to give it that.
Yeah, look, it's like going back to choices, right?
Yeah, everything's a choice.
Everything's
right?
a choice, and I started 3 weeks ago. I've started a couple new things. I've given myself 30, 40 minutes or so to go on a walk.
Yeah.
For my kind of mental health, and just for my physical health. Just take a walk around the neighborhood. When I wake up in the morning, and I've been doing this for about 2 or 3 weeks now, I don't look at my phone. I pick up my book.
In the morning.
I
started that too.
Yeah.
Did you read an article on that?
No.
Because Jeff Bezos does that, and I read that, and I was like, I want to give this a try.
Yeah.
He won't look at his phone for the first hour of the day.
I won't look at my phone for the first half hour.
Yeah.
I give myself a half hour.
I started that too.
I pick up a book, and I just start reading. And I'm like, I got to get away from the screen, because we're on our screen
all the time.
Day. Whether it's our computer, our phones, it's all day we're in front of a screen. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I need to mix this up.
Yeah.
Like I've got to see how I can shift. And again, it goes back to choice. It's being authentic.
Yeah.
It's it's just kind of being kind to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's like we know what's hurting us, but we continue to do it because we think it's the right thing to do. And it's like, is it? Is it though?
So I started getting the Wall Street Journal daily.
Okay.
On the print edition.
Print edition.
Yeah, and so my wife and I will read it in the morning.
Okay.
And I'll read it because I don't get through the whole paper in the morning. I don't have that. I have 3 young kids that go off to school. Like they're up at 6 a.m.
Right.
Like, but she wakes up at 5, and I'll usually get up around 5:30, and we'll read in the morning. And then my big thing though is after the workout, I go in the sauna and I read again in the sauna.
Okay.
And it's funny how many times I get asked, like, where'd you get the paper? I'm like, delivered. Old school.
Old school.
And I literally, my chocolate lab will run out and fetch the paper for it.
Stop.
I swear to God.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, especially when there's snow out there. You don't want to go out in the snow at 5:30 in the morning, right? So it's good to have a retriever. But yeah, I think so many people get trapped in this, what I call the busy trap.
Okay.
I'm busy. I have all these things to do.
So busy.
And to be fair, we're all busy. Like but it's an excuse. Like you gotta make the time. And I remember this. It hit home early. 2012, we were at CES. And we used to do at IDG Tech Network and PC World, we would do our sales annual kickoff training at CES, right. And we'd be there from like 8 a.m. to noon or 3. Then we'd go to the conference hall, meet with customers. Then we'd go out till 4 in the morning and then repeat every day.
Right.
It is
right.
an effing disaster, but it was a lot of fun.
Absolute disaster.
And I remember as a team, there were 40 of us, this little startup within IDG. We met downstairs to go out as a team. We were all going to go out to a big dinner, big night.
Right.
Everyone's there from the CEO, the VP of HR, the VP of sales, all the sales reps, everybody. And this one rep, we waited for 20 minutes for her to come down. And she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just so busy. It was just such a busy day." I'm like, "I'm sorry. You're more busy than the CEO, the VP of sales, the VP of HR." I'm like, that's a choice.
Yes.
You're making choice. You're either
making choices.
So listen, that's been my most biggest takeaway, I think, of all this, is how much of all this is interconnected. And it's really hard to, like, you don't just choose to be kind today. You don't just choose to build trust or add value. Like, these are like little things we got to work on.
Right.
And then you start to realize that they're all connected and they all propel you forward.
Absolutely.
It's an engine, right? And there's a lot of parts to an engine.
Yeah, and you have to be cognitive of it, right? You just, like I've said it a couple times, take a beat, step back. Okay. All right, let's move forward.
And I think that's what Brett's comment was, right? It's like you gotta you got to take that beat to think about what it is that you're doing and have some self-reflection, help your mental health, like think about what's important, right? But like if you're just running from meeting to meeting, you never get a chance to do that.
No.
So.
No. Well, cheers.
Cheers to Brett.
Yes, thank you, Brett. I think that's our last one, huh?
That's it. So what are you most hopeful for next year?
Most hopeful. Oh, man, it's been a challenging year
For a lot of people.
for a lot of people, not just us, but
Yeah.
for a lot of people. We know in the conversations that we have with our clients and customers. I'm hopeful that we can continue to be kind and growing. I know everyone has their goals in front of them, and we try to achieve them the best we can. Sometimes economics get in the way. Sometimes politics get in the way. Sometimes there's always something. But I think if we can just be kind, I think that we can make it through most things. If you can just be kind and have the empathy out there. So I'm hopeful that we can continue being kind.
Yeah, I love it. And is that, I should have asked you if that was your piece of advice because you're still a guest on the show, and I got to give you a piece of advice.
Sure, you got to keep
Is
the
that
thread
it?
running.
And I'll give mine too after you because I actually never give advice on this show
Right.
at the end. But yeah, I mean that could be yours, and you just say I just said it. Ricky, what more do you want?
What more do you need from me? God, you're always trying to pull.
Well, you're in sales, so don't ask that question because
you know,
I'll tell you to deliver more revenue.
Deliver more revenue. My advice is to let me think about this for a second. My advice.
And this is the authenticity of our show because I didn't tell you to prepare anything.
No, but I knew it was coming. I'm no stranger to the format here. My advice is, I think going back, and I forgot who said it, but just have fun. My advice is to
Clint.
just make yes.
Yeah.
Just Clint, thank you. I'm right there with you. My advice is make sure that you have fun.
Yeah.
Because life is short, as you know. I had a moment back in 2022 where life was right in front of me. There was a shiny light that I was like, oh my God, is this happening? Like, am I in a moment? I'm fine. I made it through it, but have fun. Because you just don't know when when the calendar is.
Yeah.
Right? When you're ripping the calendar off the wall, like when is that day? So just live it to the fullest, be your authentic self, and, just be good. And good things will come to you.
Yeah. I think it's so true. We never know when we're going to punch our ticket, right? I think for me, it's funny, I get to give advice now. It's funny. This is nice. I like this. I should have you interview me. And to be honest, I didn't think about this at all ahead of time. I think it's cut out the noise. There's a lot of noise in this world. From politics to international wars to layoffs. I mean, you just go down the list. And in our personal lives, partnership issues and finances and challenges with your children or God, even pets.
Boy, howdy.
So, I mean, there's just a lot of noise. And I think, to do all to really take advantage of the advice that we went through today, you got to cut out the noise and you got to just turn everything off and you have some self-reflection. For me.
And you have to be willing to receive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And which is way harder.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to just cut out the noise and think my own thoughts. It's harder for me to say, hey, Hondo, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
Right.
That's very uncomfortable. But, for me, it's prayer. Okay. For other people, it's meditation, which I also meditate and I highly recommend. But meditation, it could be physical. You know, like you're on a mountain bike and you're going up a hill for 2 miles. Like you're gonna do some self-reflection there,
Absolutely.
right? Like,
There's some meditation happening there.
So I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can achieve that same objective, right? And it's for you. It's like we're just bombarded with stuff. Even in the phone is the worst thing because it's like podcasts and news and Instagram and Facebook, and there's just constant noise, virtual meetings at work, and our daily kids' activities. I have so many parent friends that are just like, oh, we can't see you for 3 months because we're booked out.
Right.
Like, noise can come in a lot of different ways.
Sure.
You got to find time to cut all that out and just have some self-reflection on what's important in life, and think about the advice that we gave today. Think about advice from your friends, your family, what's coming through you for the inspiration, whether it's the muse or God, you name it. Like, get that kind of advice and just think about it and how do you want to apply it. And it's amazing how clearly those answers will come to you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's it. And whether you're, like I said, biking up a hill or sitting down to meditate, all of a sudden the answer to all your problems just appears, you know, and you realize, oh, I need to apply kindness here. I need to leverage this relationship here. Oh, I need to be the entrepreneur and try this new project here. And all this advice just comes to fruition. But if you don't cut out the noise, it's drowned.
Yes.
And I think that's my biggest advice to people is just cut out the noise.
Hear, hear.
Well, cheers, man.
Cheers.
This has been fun.
Yes.
So,
To a good 24 and a better 25.
hey, to a better 25. Here, here.